They say a crushing defeat sometimes hurts more than how good winning a championship feels. That has been the case with certain super talented, super motivated teams throughout NBA history. A team can win the offseason, get loads of talent, and still fall short. You can't guarantee that a great regular season team is gonna win a title. Sometimes the young, hungry teams need to win every game, every night, but the more mature teams who are actually title ready are willing to take a night off to benefit the long run. In this video, we're gonna count down 10 to 1 to find out who is the most disappointing NBA team of all time. Hey guys, it's Casey Kiernan, host of the AM Hoops YouTube channel. Hit subscribe because we're trying to grow this channel. Also follow me on Instagram at AM Hoops and over on Twitter at Casey Kiernan. First, we're talking honorable mention before the countdown. Like failed super teams, the 2012-13 Lakers or the 13-14 Brooklyn Nets that doomed their teams for years, or the 05-06 Pistons who won 64 games but shot 33% in elimination to the Heat. Also, there's the 1 against 8 teams like the 2011 San Antonio Spurs who lost to Memphis, or the 2012 Chicago Bulls, but they lost Derrick Rose to injury. In fact, that 2012 Bulls team is not on the countdown because I'm not going to go too hard on teams with injured superstars. Injury is a legitimate excuse. So let's start the countdown with number 10, the 72-73 Boston Celtics. This team held the record for most wins without a title until Golden State broke that in 2016. These Celtics went 68-14 in the regular season. Some believe they're the best team to not win a title. They were motivated after losing in the conference finals the year prior to the Knicks, and they were talented. MVP Dave Cowens and legends JoJo White and John Havlicek. They were the best defensive team in the league and the 8th best offense in the regular season. The Celtics faced the Knicks again in the conference finals and went down 3-1 after Havlicek tore a back muscle. Hondo came back, played through the pain, and forced a Game 7. The unstoppable C's in the regular season went down to New York. The good news, Boston won a title the very next year. Number 9, both the 69 and the 70 Los Angeles Lakers. There were a lot of disappointing teams during this era of Lakers basketball. What says it all is Jerry West's finals record. You think LeBron is bad. Mr. Clutch, as they call the logo, was 1-8 in the NBA Finals. In 1962, Frank Selvey missed an open shot that would have won a title. They lost 5 times in the finals from 62 to 68, all to the Celtics. But then in 1969, West and Elgin Baylor got help in the form of an all-timer, Wilt Chamberlain. The first ever super team was formed, and the first ever super disappointment. This Laker team was so used to West and Baylor scoring 30 a night, the adjustment was just too much at first, even with 3 of the greatest players in the league. Even their super team couldn't get past the Celtics in 69, and they lost in the finals again the next year to the Knicks. Number 8, the 98-99 Indiana Pacers. As we'll see later in this list, whenever Michael Jordan retired, experts predicted some other team was going to win it all, and in 99 the Pacers were that team. In the years just before MJ's second retirement, the Pacers were their biggest competition in the East. In fact, Indiana lost to the Bulls in 3 of the previous 5 years in the conference finals, all in Game 7s. Now, with Chicago out of the way, the Pacers would cruise to the finals, right? Nope. They lost in the conference finals to the Knicks, who were missing Patrick Ewing, injured the final 4 games. Are you kidding me? Reggie Miller shot just 36% from the field in that series, one of the most disappointing moments for a Hall of Famer, which makes our list at number 8 as a team. Number 7, the 2011-2012 San Antonio Spurs. This team was humiliated the year before as a 1 seed, losing to an 8, so they were motivated in 2011-12 and talented. That is a formula for high expectations, as we've seen up and down this list. Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, yes, a little older, which is why they're not further down the list, but obviously still capable of winning a title, which we saw in the years following. They ended the season on a 10-game win streak, then swept their first 2 opponents. That is how dominant this team was. In the conference finals, all they had to do was beat an up-and-coming Thunder team, and San Antonio, right on track, was up 2-0. Then they collapsed to 4 straight losses. A 4-game losing streak following a 20-game win streak. How do you explain that? This Spurs meltdown is one of the worst in NBA history. But the number 6 biggest disappointment ever is the 08-09 Cleveland Cavaliers. This year really jump-started LeBron James's reputation as a choker in the playoffs. He, of course, kicked that narrative later in his career, but 2009 was an unmitigated disaster. Similar to that 73 Celtics team, they checked all the boxes. The number 1 seed after 66 wins, the league MVP in LeBron James, and multiple All-Stars. This time, LeBron James finally had help. Unlike that 2007 team that he drugged to the finals, this was supposed to be LeBron's first title team. Every single ESPN analyst picked the Cavs over Dwight Howard's Magic in the conference finals, and LeBron was legit. He averaged almost 40 points per game, but it turned out that help was a hoax. Dwight Howard dominated in the paint. He beat up on Hedo Turkoglu and Rashard Lewis. They were bounced in the conference semifinals the next year, but 2009, losing to the Magic in 6 games hurt even more, so much so that the next year, LeBron was done and he was off to Miami. The number 5 most disappointing team was the 97-98 LA Lakers. What's worse than LeBron losing with high expectations? 2 of the best players ever disappointing. The Shaq-Kobe Lakers famously didn't break through till Phil Jackson got there, but 97-98 was the worst of those pre-Phil years. How good was this team? Yeah, Shaq and a super young Kobe, but this team won 61 games. Analysts called them the most talented team in the NBA, even with MJ's Bulls in the East. They dominated the first 2 rounds, then came the Utah Jazz. This was supposed to be revenge for the LA Lakers because the Jazz had beat LA the previous year. And Game 1 was a night that Shaq and Kobe will never forget. The Jazz won in a 35-point beatdown. That was a precursor to a 4-game sweep. One of the most disappointing endings ever, plus it robbed us of a Kobe against Michael Jordan finals. Next up, number 4, the 2010-11 Miami Heat. You knew they'd make the list. Even more than 2009, this was a hyped LeBron James team. The Miami Heat Big Three had just been formed. James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, called the Heatles, because whenever they came to town, it was like the Fab Four had arrived. It took them a few games to get going, but once they did, they settled into their roles and became the most hated team in basketball. If it wasn't the decision, it was that intro. People delighted in this disappointing ending. They rolled through the playoffs, losing just 1 game per round. Then in the finals, the Big Three faced a Big One in Dallas. Normally, champions have at least 2 superstars. Dallas had 1, and Dirk Nowitzki had a history of choking in the postseason. The Heat would definitely win. Instead, LeBron choked. The Mavs won, and LeBron said actually recently this was so disappointing, he temporarily lost his love for basketball. Number 3, the 94 and 95 Phoenix Suns. LeBron may have lost in 2011, but he won the next year. Charles Barkley never did. His 94 Suns team was picked to win after MJ's first retirement. They lost in the finals the year prior to the Bulls, and now with Jordan playing baseball, the crown was theirs. They took a 2-0 series lead against the Rockets in the conference semis. Listen to how confident Charles Barkley was.
There isn't anybody over there who wants to shoot. So when Akeem got it, we were all over him like that cheap suit you got.
Houston's own newspaper called them Choke City. What happened next is why Houston is now called Clutch City. The Rockets won in 7, and the exact same thing happened the following year. Number 2, the 06-07 Dallas Mavericks. Like many other teams on our list, this team was motivated, having failed in the finals the year prior. They went for 67 wins, the greatest regular season in Mavs history, and Dirk Nowitzki won league MVP. Dirk had a 50-40-90 season. He averaged 24.6 points per game, 8.9 boards, and a career-high 3.4 assists. They had 2 All-Stars, just like the Nowitzki-Steve Nash days. They were so dominant in the regular season that they rested a ton before the playoffs, bringing in the old rest versus rust argument. They were the 1 seed and faced former Mavs coach Don Nelson and the 8th-seeded Warriors. Dallas lost every single game in Oakland, and Dirk laid an egg in Game 6. He went 2 of 13 from the field, and the Mavs were embarrassed, 111-86. They were the first 1 seed to lose to an 8 in a 7-game series in NBA history, and it set up another all-time moment, one of the most awkward MVP acceptance ceremonies. But the #1 most disappointing team of all time is the 2015-16 Golden State Warriors. Of course, we all lived through this one recently, but there are some things about the 73-win Warriors you might not know. For instance, the Dubs were historic for more than wins. They set the all-time three-point makes record at 1,077 at the time. They led the league in three-point percentage, and they had maybe the 2 greatest shooters ever, who just had the first and third most individual threes made in a season. Literally, by definition, this was the greatest shooting team of all time, and somehow that squad couldn't make open shots in the finals against the Cavs. They had 75.7% of their three-point attempts uncontested, and somehow they hit less than 40% of them. In Game 6, they failed to score in the final 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The Dubs were up 3-1 and melted down. Draymond Green suspended for Game 5. The Cavs somehow beat a 9-loss team 3 straight times and broke that Cleveland curse. Those are the most disappointing teams. The big takeaway, you never know how a team is going to play in the playoffs. The Milwaukee Bucks this year look great, but you just don't know. It's what we love about the playoffs. We think we have it figured out, but then it becomes unpredictable as a great team disappoints.
Support AM Hoops and click subscribe. Don't miss a weekly NBA video.